Hello everyone. This is a 1-year update of my Japanese language journey through Immersion every single day. In addition to this, I also moved to Japan right before the 1-year mark. I'm still not fluent in Japanese, but I've been able to set up my new life here using the Japanese that I've learned in the past year. In a way, I've been able to measure the results of the time I spent learning Japanese, and like in my previous updates, I'll include a section where I speak in Japanese, so if you're interested, feel free to skip ahead or stick around until then. In my first video, I explained that I wanted to be able to stick to something, with or without motivation. I've started different hobbies or projects so many times, only to stop completely a few weeks later. It might sound obvious now that I'm explaining my thought process on this, but by sticking to your words and accomplishing something that takes months or years of effort, I believe that you also build confidence in life to do anything. If you want something, no one's gonna do that for you. You need to go and do that for yourself. For those that are new to this channel, I'll quickly explain exactly how I've been learning Japanese. It all comes down to two main things: input and output. If you've been watching Japanese learning videos on YouTube, you've probably heard this a million times, but just in case, I'll explain it. Input is the immersion part. It's basically listening to or reading as much Japanese as possible. Also, although not pure immersion, one of the main components of how I've been acquiring Japanese is by learning new vocabulary through a spaced repetition app, Anki. Basically, every day I've been learning new words and kanji through flashcards, and then I would go and listen to Japanese content on YouTube or try reading manga or books. At first, I didn't understand anything, and the content that I was consuming wasn't really enjoyable. But little by little, I was able to recognize more and more words, and at some point, you realize you're able to understand sentences. It goes from identifying words that you know to identifying words that you don't know. By that time, I also started making my own Anki cards, which are new words, part of sentences that I found through Immersion. I didn't do any output until my 4th month of learning. At the time, I started going to language exchanges. Little did I know that this decision would completely change my life, not to mention the way that I improved at Japanese. As I got better at communicating, I made a group of Japanese friends, and the time we would spend together kind of grew exponentially until most of them had to return to Japan. This was to a point that conversations became the main source of learning, and of course it didn't feel like studying. I was just having fun. I never would have met these incredible people if I never left my comfort zone, let alone moved to Japan, which was a dream of mine. Although I've been calling it the immersion method, it isn't really a specific method per se. The focus was to integrate Japanese in my everyday life in a way that doesn't feel like studying. And if anything, I think that I was able to make that a reality. By the way, as you might have noticed, I'm trying to change the format. I didn't want to keep using anime in the background because one, it's not my content, and two, it's kind of a gray zone, and I want to be able to make more videos like this that are more casual. Maybe vlog style videos. I mentioned wanting to do that. I don't want to do the same thing everyone is doing, like, I don't know, there's so many YouTubers in Japan, I know, but we'll see. So I have a few notes here. The rest is off script. I just have notes of what I've been doing, so I'll try to break those down. So YouTube is still the main source of immersion for me. It's the most interesting I find. It has native level content, of course, but it has something for everyone. I mean, there's no bad time to go on YouTube. When you get started, you can start with, comprehensible input, and then go into native level content later. And even then you have advanced native content, so you'll never run out. In the last 6 months, so this is the 1-year update, but I haven't made a video in 6 months. I haven't really immersed as much as I would have liked, and it's because of spending a lot of time with my group of friends. but I haven't watched any comprehensible input. I find it too boring now. Something that I mentioned I wasn't doing much in my 6 months update video is watching anime. And I've started doing that a lot more, especially in the last 3 months and even more in the last month that I've been in Japan here. I mean, there's many reasons, but one of them is I'm in Japan. I see it everywhere, in the train, in sushi restaurants. They have collabs everywhere. And I don't know, it's fun to see. It makes you want to watch it. Not specifically the collabs, but just in general, I want to have more anime knowledge, if that makes sense. Part of that is I didn't have internet when I moved here, or at least not a lot. So I was downloading a lot of it on free Wi-Fi, and in the evening I would just watch it on my phone without doing any lookups or whatever. And I noticed I was having fun. So you don't need to understand everything. And I say that, but now even though I don't understand everything, I'm surprised by some things that I do understand that I never would have before. That was a lot of words, only to not say much, but you know what it is. But yes, general comprehension gone up a lot. I know I'm probably gonna say that in every video. It takes a lot less effort to understand things. I don't need to be paying as much attention. Things just come more naturally. I think that's the main way to describe the change in comprehension. As for output, personally, this has been my main source of learning in the last 6 months. This is just because I made a group of Japanese friends and it was the most fun. Is it the most efficient way to learn? I don't know. I don't really care. I definitely feel like I could have improved some other areas if I had been immersing more, especially reading, because I haven't improved as much as I want in reading. I keep saying I want to read more, but in the end, I did read more, but I didn't read as much as I would have liked to. Let's talk about it. Reading. My note says, clearly not that much. Before reading, passive immersion, 0. I think passive immersion is good, but my work requires me to think a lot. I listen to Japanese like all day, speak to Japanese people all day, well, when I'm not working. And so sometimes I just want silence. No Japanese, no music, silence. And that's the reason I don't have any passive immersion. For reading, clearly not that much. I never finished Karafuru, which is a novel that I started in I mentioned that I started in my last video. At the time, I just had to do too many lookups. I still understood the story and it was interesting, but I made it 2/3 of the way in and I felt like I was just reading for completion rather than enjoyment. I want to be able to read without looking up everything, and so I put this on pause. I mentioned that I wanted to watch more anime, especially fantasy anime, and so Pat GC, I believe his name is, recommended Kuma Kuma Kumabea, which is a series of light novel of a isekai girl in a bear costume. And so I read 2 novels of that, 2 volumes of that. I think it definitely helped a little bit for fantasy vocabulary and also just to get into reading more. But I had to drop it. It was too brain dead for me. Sorry. I am reading Kimi no Suizou wo Tabetai, which is the same author as Mata Onaji Yume wo Miteita, which was the first novel that I finished in Japanese and that I really enjoyed. I think this one is definitely harder than Mata Onaji Yume wo Miteita. To be honest, I wasn't really into it in the first third of the book, I would say. Well, it's getting more interesting, let's say, and I've been enjoying it more. And also, this is my night book, so it's taking me a long time to finish. I've read Sonobisuke Doro wa Koi wo Suru, Volume 1, which was okay. Kimetsu no Yaiba, Volumes 1 to 3, reading Volume 4. I'm also reading 村上春樹、神の子たちがみんな踊る. It sounds more difficult than it is. It's actually a series of short stories. So far, I find it easier than something like 君の水蔵を食べたい. The reason might be because, at least in this novel, which is my first Murakami Haruki, the word choice is very simple. It's not pretentious or anything. I feel like 君の水蔵を食べたい is a little bit more poetic, and so is a bit more difficult to understand. Notice how I've been saying reading and not finished for most of these, and that's because I just haven't been reading enough, to be honest. Now that I'm in Japan, I've been reading a lot more. I actually didn't write this here, but I'm reading this as well. It's probably the top light novel. I don't know if it's good. It's ようこそ実力. I forgot the kanji. 主義の教室. Basically something supremacy classroom. I'm definitely excited to read more now that I'm in Japan. I've been enjoying going to bookstores and browsing around. There's also like a lot of used bookstores near train stations and whatnot. So I really like the book culture in Japan. For grammar, absolutely nothing. I mentioned that I was doing Bunpro in my previous video, and that was because I was going to take an exam, so I wanted to have some kind of practice before that. But really, looking at grammar is really just not for me. And this time around, I haven't looked up anything. Sometimes I won't understand a vocabulary pattern, a grammar pattern, and so I'll look it up. But that's the only times that I'll look anything grammar related. And for Anki, I tried to keep this short because I noticed that I was becoming an Anki YouTuber, and I don't want to do that. I finished the Core 2K 6K deck right before moving to Japan. I also have, in addition to that, 1.7k plus sentence mined. So in total, that is 7.7k cards that I have. And out of those, 7k plus are mature. No, sorry, almost 7k are mature. And this is actually going down, I think. And the reason is that if you've seen in my previous videos where I show myself doing Anki, I put the sentence on the front side of the card. The reasoning was that some words have different pronunciations based on the context, and also I just thought that it made more sense to learn the word in context. The issue there is that my brain was relying too much on those sentences. When I would see these words, either in a book or in a document in Japan, I wasn't recognizing the words a lot of the times. I want to be able to just see kanji and know what it is instantly without making mistakes. Not everyone needs that, honestly. And I think people learn differently. Some people will do extremely well the sentence cards. For me, probably not so much. My brain is lazy, so it'll look for the easiest thing to remember to create pathways in my brain. The moment I removed these sentences, my recall ability went from 90% on Anki to like 60. But it's picking back up. It's been only a week, I think, and I've been relearning a lot of words, but I'm able to recall these much faster than I was before. Instead of finding patterns in the sentence, I now find patterns in the actual kanji, so I don't need the context anymore. And I don't think it's inherently bad that I learned these words through sentences, and now that I'm going back through them using the kanji alone, because I kind of understand more how these words work because of the sentences, and now I'm just reinforcing the kanji again. So I'm not relearning the words, but I'm making sure I know what kanji it is, if that makes sense. And so for me, it took me around 11 months to finish the 2K, 6K deck, while also taking cards in my own deck as well. Now I'm basically not taking any new words until I'm more confident with the kanji that I'm relearning basically. Now for milestones. I mentioned that I took the JLPT N3 in December of last year, and I'm glad to say that I passed. I'm not a 1 year N1 person, but that's completely fine with me. I've moved to Japan. I mentioned this in my previous videos. It was a dream of mine, and I've worked really hard for it, and now I'm here. I mentioned that I was able to kind of measure my level of Japanese by being here, and so I arrived here at the 11th month mark, so it wasn't even a year yet. I had some initial information in English in the first day, and then everything else I've done in Japanese. I registered at the city office twice actually because I moved. I found an apartment on my own, which includes many things like talking to the fudosan, finding the apartment, doing the paperwork, getting your gas set up with the gas person coming, calling the electricity company, and basically this is all Keigo, by the way. My Keigo training arc. Keigo has been the challenging part because I'm trying to be polite if I can. The more I learn Keigo, actually, the more I enjoy it. I think it's pretty. I bought a bike, registered my bike. I've shopped around for internet plans, only to realize later that I actually have internet included here, and it's very fast. It's almost a gig, and it's free. Well, it's included in my rent. Thankfully, I didn't actually finalize any plans, so that worked out for me. By the way, I thought I should mention that even though I did everything in Japanese, it's not like it was perfect all the time. Actually, I had to ask for clarification multiple times, and especially when I call on the phone, for example, I have to say something like ところで日本語をまだ勉強中なのでよろしくお願いしますとか. And they usually are more understanding. But I never had issues getting my point across, or I don't think I ever missed really important sections of information, or at least not that I'm aware of. Now for the time that I spent learning Japanese. And by the way, these are for the first year only. We're now May 20th, but these are the hours for the first 12 months only. 1,385 hours in total. 378 for flashcards, 305 for active listening, 82 hours of passive listening, 136 hours of reading, 413 hours of conversations, 4 hours of written output, 49 hours of grammar or just additional learning in general, and 7 hours of games. This averages out to 3.8 hours per day. Notice that there's 413 hours of conversation here. So in my last few months, I was basically doing Anki and conversations. I was having full day hangouts during the weekends and half day hangouts after work until very late. This was a lot, and I'm an introvert, believe it or not, but I believe that if you find the right person, they won't drain you. And I think I mentioned before as well that I wasn't timing the time that I was hanging out with people. And that's because, well, first, it kind of feels a little bit weird. And two, it wasn't completely in Japanese. So it was English, Japanese, with the first two people that I met, let's say. But when my group expanded to more people, it basically became 95% Japanese, and I speak a lot, too much maybe when I'm with people that I'm comfortable with. And so I started timing those, not with a timer on the spot, obviously, but at the end of the day, I would add 8 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is. And I wanted to do that for the first year because I think I want to have an accurate representation of the time it took me to get to the level that I am. I stopped doing that when I moved to Japan. I'm lucky that right before I moved here, most of my Japanese friends also moved back to Japan, and so we still see each other sometimes, but of course everyone is busy, so I don't actually hang out as much with Japanese people in Japan compared to when I was back home in Canada. Moving forward, I'm going to be taking the JLPT N2 in July, so I'm not taking the N1 route again. I'm going to do that whenever I feel like it. I mentioned Teinego and Keigo. I'm working on getting better at this. It's improving every day. I'll try to get to 10K cards on Anki, and of course, read more. 皆さん、こんにちは。今日も日本語でちょっと話してみたいと思います。今日もスクリプト一切ございません。でもやっぱりちょっと難しい、一人でカメラと喋ることちょっと不自然かもしれません。それと丁寧語ね、ちょっとまだ難しいですけれども、よろしくお願いします。できる限りやってみます。もちろん友達喋ると丁寧語じゃなくてタメ口を使ってますので、丁寧語はある程度大丈夫かな。でも敬語はちょっと無理かもしれません。敬語ね、面白いことと思う。一つ目のトピックかな。最近はね、アニメを見てたんですけれども、なんだっけ、無意識転生っていうアニメで、登場人物がね、めちゃくちゃ敬語がうまいですよね。その無意識転生の漫画、数年前ちょっと読みました。でももちろん英語でだから、そのキャラの、敬語の言い方とか英語で通じられなかったかもしれません。やっぱりその敬語を喋るとき、本当に言いたいことっていうのはその敬語を喋るの登場人物っていう本当に必要なポイントと思います。友達と喋るでも、登場人物ね、なんだっけ、ルーディっていう人物、友達と喋る時も敬語を使ってます。だからちょっと変な感じかもしれません。ある程度その敬語を使っているの意味は多分自分を守るためかもしれないですけど、そのポイントは必要と思う。もう一つの例あるんですけど、俺だけレベル何々っていうアニメで、ある場面でめちゃくちゃ失礼な俳優が態度を悪くてしてたんですけど、他の人物がその俳優と敬語を使ってめちゃくちゃ丁寧で騒ぐなっていう意味を通じた。でもめちゃくちゃ怖くて丁寧で話したんですけど、それは敬語の強さかもしれません。丁寧でもできるし、ちょっと怖い丁寧で通じるですけど、ある程度距離感も 感じるですね。まあね、敬語頑張ります。例えばなんだっけ、すいません、その商品購入したいんですが発送は可能でしょうかとか。いややっぱり敬語はちょっと、いや本当に綺麗と思うでもたまに怖いかもしれません。まあね、他のトピックはなんだっけ、そう、不自然な日本語についてちょっと話したいと思います。不自然な日本語って何？例えばアニメでなんか変な日本語聞こえるんでしょ。でもたまになんかその不自然な日本語を使って、逆になんか自然になるかもしれません。ちょっと説明します。例えばおっさんの私は最近ね許してあげるわとか使ってます。なんかもちろんちょっとツンデレからみたいでしょ。でもそれを使って、逆になんか面白いじゃないですか、友達とね。それとも例えば仕方あるまいとか、なんかおっさんみたい、アニメのおっさんみたい、面白いと思う。日本語学習者の皆様にそれを言いたいんですが、いやみんなはね、なんか一生懸命日本語を勉強して、もちろん不自然な日本語を使いたいんでしょ。でも日本人ではない。だからこそなんかそんなに気にしなくてもいいと思う。なんか逆に、友達と好きな日本語を使ってくださいと、逆に面白いになると思う。でももちろん年上の人と話せる時、事務所でとか、できる限り丁寧の日本語を使ってましょう。でも友達と喋るとそんなに気にしなくてもいいと思います。もう一つのトピックなんですけど、私の日本語能力、もちろん流暢なわけないですけど、ある程度友達と喋るとき、日常の会話とか大体問題なしかな。でもそれを言ってもやっぱり日本語は難しい。なんか日常の会話以外ちょっとじゃなくてめちゃくちゃ難しいになる。科学とかもちろん言葉を分かんないんですけど、でもある程度もしその科学の言葉を勉強して、なんかもっと科学の動画を見て絶対できると思います。逆に人間関係は難しいと思う。なんかさ、言葉の問題だけではないね。相手の気持ちをちゃんと分かること、自分の気持ちをちゃんと通じること、なんかある意味なんかめっちゃ繊細な話題ことになります。だからもっと上手くなれるように頑張ります。日常だけじゃなくて深い会話も話したいと思う。というわけで最後までご視聴いただきありがとうございました。次回の動画でお会いしましょう。バイバイ。